What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an influencer outreach AI agent by creating a simple workflow in N8N. Let's get started. In N8N, I've created a workflow that I've renamed to influencer outreach AI agent. Now here, we're going to add a trigger. So I'm going to choose a manual trigger over here. And now to scrape influencers with their contact information, we're going to use this tool called Apify. Apify is an incredible tool that you can use to scrape any website and automate projects. So to get 30% off your first subscription of this tool, click the link down below in the description and then go ahead and create an account in Apify. And after creating an account in Apify, head over to Apify Store. Here, we're going to search for the website that we like to scrape. So here you can scrape influencers from Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or any social media platforms you like to contact the influencers. In our case, we like to scrape Instagram influencers. So I'll search for Instagram email scraper. Then here I'll click on search over here. So the reason why we are searching for Instagram email scraper, we would like to find influencers with their contact information already available. So here you can see we have over 500 tools that you can use to scrape influencers who have their email addresses already available. So here I'm going to use this tool to scrape emails of influencers. So I'll open this tool on a new tab. And this is the tool that we're going to use to scrape influencers with their contact information over here. So now to scrape the influencers, all we have to do is add the keyword right here, location, social network will be Instagram, and the email types over here. This is the keyword of the niche that you'd like to scrape influencers. So here you can add beauty, lifestyle, travel, or any other specific keyword over here. I'm going to choose keto recipes as a keyword. And now to scrape the influencers using this keyword right here, I'm going to click on start right here. Here you can see that our tool is running and getting our data. Let's give it a second for it to scrape influencers using the keto recipe keyword. We can see that our tool succeeded in scraping for us 61 influencers using the keto recipes keyword over here. We scraped a total of 61 influencers, and we got their email address, their title, description, and their Instagram page URL over here. This is incredible. To add this data to our workflow right here, I'll click on API, then I'll scroll where it says get dataset items, then I'll copy it right here, and I'll go back to our workflow, and here I'll search for the HTTP request node right here. Here I'm going to paste the URL that we just copied, and then I'll click on execute step right here. You can see our node was executed successfully, and we're getting the 61 influencers that we just scraped using our tool in Apify. So here we're getting the email address, title, description, and the Instagram page URL over here. Now, instead of having to manually scrape the leads over here using Apify, then copying the dataset ID and manually pasting it right here and executing this node so we can get these influencers with their contact information, we can automatically scrape these influencers right here in our workflow. To do that, here I'll clear this URL, and then I'll open Apify's API documentation. Then I'll scroll to find the API that we like to call. So here we like to run an actor. So I'm going to click on run actor synchronously with input and get dataset items. And here I'll copy this URL. And then I'll go back to our workflow, then click on import URL right here. Here I'll paste this URL, then I'll click on import over here. Now after importing our URL, here we're going to add 3 items. The first item that we're going to add is the actor ID. Second item that we're going to add is our API token over here. And the third thing that we're going to add is a JSON over here. So now let us start by adding the first item, which is the actor ID. To get the actor ID, I'll go back to our tool right here. And then I'll copy the unique ID of this tool by getting the actor ID from the search URL. So I'll copy this unique ID, which is the ID of this tool, from the search URL, and then I'll come and paste it right here. Then after adding our actor ID, the next thing that we're going to add is our API token right here. To add our token, I'll go back to Apify, then click on settings, then click on API and integrations. Here, we're going to create a new token by clicking on create a new token right here, give it a description, and then click on create to create your token. Since I had already created my token, I'm going to copy it right here. Then I'll go back to our workflow and paste the token over here. And then the last thing that we're going to add is a JSON over here. So where it says specify body, I'm going to click on using JSON to add our JSON over here. To get the JSON, I'll go back to our tool, and then where it says manual and JSON, click on JSON. And then here we're going to copy our JSON over here. So I'll copy it, and then I'll go back to our workflow. Then here I'll paste our JSON over here. So we like to scrape influencers using this keyword here, which is keto recipe. Now let us try scraping the influencers right here in our workflow. So to do that, I'll click on execute step right here. You can see it's executing our node. Let's give it a second for it to scrape the influencers for us. Here, you can see that our workflow succeeded in scraping for us 59 influencers from Instagram. And we got the email, the title, the description, and the Instagram page URL over here. So our node works perfectly. So I'll click on back to canvas right here, and we can rename this to Instagram Influencer Scraper. And then here I'll click on rename. Here. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we can limit the number of influencers right here. So 59 influencers is a very huge list of influencers to work with as we continue to set up and test our workflow. So here we can I'll search for the limit node over here, and then we can choose to limit the influencers to only 10 over here. And I'll click on back to canvas right here. We can try to execute this node. You can see we are outputting only 10 influencers, so we can work with this number here. Here I'm going to pin this data instead of having to manually scrape the influencers again and again, and choose to only work with these 10 influencers over here. Now the next thing that we can do here is we can wait for a few seconds to add the influencers that we just scraped to a Google spreadsheet. So yeah, we're going to wait for, let's say, 3 seconds to avoid overwhelming Google Sheets right here. Now to add our influencers to a spreadsheet, in Google Sheet, I've created a spreadsheet that I've renamed to Instagram Influencers spreadsheet. Here, I've created this sheet that I've renamed to Instagram Influencers. Here's where we're going to add the title, email, bio description, and the Instagram page URL over here. We're also going to add the email subject line and the personalized cold email that we're going to send them via a cold outreach campaign. So now to add our Instagram influencers over here to this spreadsheet, I'll go back to our workflow, and here I'm going to search for Google Sheet. Click on this node, and then here I'll click on append drawing sheet. Here we're going to first of all execute this node first so we can get the data over here. And then I'll open this node right here. Here, you'll need to create a credential by clicking on create a new credential over here, then sign in with a Google account, and click on save to create a credential. Since I had already done that, I'm going to close this over here, and here I'm going to choose our document, and here I'm going to choose our spreadsheet, which is this spreadsheet right here. Then our sheet will be the Instagram influencers over here. Now we're going to map the columns in our spreadsheet with the data that we just scraped from Apify. So for the title, I'm going to drag the title right here. The email will be the email address right here. The bio, we're going to map the bio right here. And then the Instagram URL, we're going to map it right here. So we're going to update the subject line and the personalized cold email columns later on after we've generated the subject line and the personalized cold email for these leads. But for now, I'm going to just choose to add the editor here by clicking on execute step. You can see our node was executed. Our node was executed successfully. Now when I open our spreadsheet, you can see we added our influencer's title, email, bio description, and the Instagram page URL over here using our workflow over here. So here, I'll rename this to Instagram Influencers. Then here I'll click on rename. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to generate personalized cold outreach emails that we're going to send our leads over here. To do that, we're going to use an AI agent. So in AI, I'm going to click on AI agent over here. Here we're going to define below and add a prompt over here. The prompt could be on the lines of, you're a world-class cold email copywriter that writes hyper-personalized, fast-touch cold emails based on data scraped from influencers' Instagram profiles. And then here, I'll add the system message over here and expand it right here so we can add the system message. The system message could be on the lines of, using the provided scrape data and the think tool, generate a scroll-stopping subject line that feels personal and relevant. A personalized cold email with a maximum of 120 words that includes a custom, relevant opening line that shows familiarity with the recipient's background or recent activity. We also like to include a clear value proposition or an irresistible offer tailored to the automation services we offer at Luxe Automation. We'd also like to include a soft and pushy CTA to start a conversation. And lastly, we like to use a friendly, human, and a non-salesy tone. And here we're adding the influencers scrape data that we scraped using Apify. So here we're adding the title, bio description, the email, and the Instagram URL over here. Then we are concluding the prompt by saying, always sign off as Peter Marshall from Luxe Automation. And we'd like to generate a cold email specifically for this lead over here. So here I'll click on back to canvas over here. And I'll click on execute step to generate our cold email. Here we did not connect the chat model. So I'll click on back to canvas to add our chat model over here. To add the chat model, click over here, then click on open chat model over here. Here, you'll need to create a credential like we did with other nodes over here by clicking on creating a credential. And here, we're going to add our API key from OpenAI. Then after adding your API key, click on save to create your credential and choose your credential over here. Since I had already created my credential, I'm going to choose my credential over here. And you can choose the model that you'd like to use. You can choose either of these models, including GPT-5, which is a latest model that we're using currently. I'm going to choose GPT 4.1 over here, since it's not many people are using it currently. And then here, click on back to canvas over here. Here we can place it at the top over here. The next thing that we're going to add is a simple memory over here. I'm going to choose to define it below. And for the key, I'm going to choose to add today's date over here. Then I'll click on back to canvas over here. And then lastly, we're going to add a tool over here. I'm going to add a think tool. And here I'll click on back to canvas over here. Now here, we can open this node and now execute step to generate our personalized cold email for over 10 Instagram influencers. You can see it's executing our node. Let's give it a second. You can see that our node was executed successfully. And I click on output over here. You can see the subject line and the email body that it generated for us over here. This is incredible. It generated for us the 10 cold emails for our 10 leads over here. Okay. So you can see it's outputting the subject line and the email body as one output. So we like to output the subject line and the email body as two individual items. So to do that, here I require specific output, and then I'll add an output parser over here. Here I'll click on structured output parser, and here we're going to add our JSON over here. Here I'll paste our JSON example over here. So I like to output the subject line and the email body over here. So now here I'll click on back to canvas over here. And now here I'll open this node. And then I'll click on execute step again to regenerate our cold emails. Here you can see that our node was executed successfully, and it successfully generated 10 personalized cold emails for our influencers, and we are putting the subject line and the email body individually over here. This is awesome. So our node works perfectly. So here I renamed this agent to Influencer Outreach AI Agent. And here I'll click on rename. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to update our influencers with a cold email and the subject line that we generated using our Influencer Outreach AI agent. So to do that, here I'm going to search for Google Sheets and click on Google Sheets over here. Then here I'm going to click on update row using sheet node. And we're going to choose our credential. And I'm going to choose our document right here, which is this document. Then here I'm going to choose our sheet, which is this sheet right here. Then here we're going to choose the column that we'd like to match. I'm going to choose the title over here. And then we're going to drag the title over here and map it. Now here we're going to choose the column that we'd like to update, we're going to update the columns with the subject line and the personalized called email. So now to update the columns with the subject line and the personalized called email, I'll click on execute step over here. You can see that our node was executed successfully, and we succeeded in updating the influencers with their respective subject line and personalized called email. Now here you can see the personalized subject line for each of our influencers over here, and here is a personalized called emails for each of our influencer we generated using our workflow here. This is amazing. We generated these personalized called emails and subject lines using our workflow over here. So here I'll rename this to outreach scripts and click on rename over here. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is, can wait for a few seconds, let's say 3 seconds over here. And I'll click on back to canvas, and then I'll rename this to wait 3 seconds. Then here I'll click on rename. And then now you can send the outreach emails to our influencers over here. So I'm going to send the influencers the outreach emails using Gmail. So in Gmail, I'm going to click on send a message right here. We're going to choose our credential over here. Then here we're going to add the email addresses. The email address, we're going to grab the email address from our spreadsheet right here. So I'll drag the email address over here. Subject line will be the subject line that we generated using our influencer outreach AI agent. Message email type will be text. Then the message right here, we're going to map the email body with a personalized called email that we generated using our influencer outreach AI agent. So now if I click on execute step, we're going to send these influencers this called emails right here. So now you can see our node is executing over here. Let's give it a second for you to send the cold outreach emails. You can see our node was executed successfully. And now we send the influencers our cold outreach emails. Now, instead of using Gmail, you can use a cold email sending tool like Instantly, Smartlead, or Lemlist. So all you have to do here is search for the tool. For example, you can search for Lemlist. And then in Lemlist, you'll have created a campaign. And all you have to do is create a lead and add the leads that we just scraped over here to the campaign that you'll have created in Lemlist with the scripts and the subject lines and the follow-up emails. And now all you have to do is, after running our workflow, scraping the influencers and adding them to the campaign, all you have to do in Lemlist is just start the campaign to start sending the outreach emails. But I'm going to choose to use Gmail as our example right here. And then the next thing that we're going to do over here is we're going to add a label to these outreach emails. So in Gmail, I'm going to click on add label to message. And here we're going to add our message ID, which will be this ID right here. Then I'm going to search for our label. I'm going to choose influencers outreach emails as our label. Then I'll execute steps over here. And then I'll execute our node over here. You can see our node was executed successfully, and we successfully labeled our outreach emails that we're sending to our influencers as Instagram outreach emails. And then lastly, I'm going to search for the do nothing node over here. Click on it. Then here I'll execute step. And now our workflow is fully set up from start to finish over here. We are scraping Instagram influencers using our tool in Apify, and we are limiting the number of influencers to 10 and waiting a few seconds to add them to our spreadsheet. And then using this AI agent, we are generating personalized cold outreach scripts. Then we are adding the scripts to our spreadsheet, and then waiting a few seconds to start sending the scripts to our influencers using Gmail over here. Then we are adding the labels to the scripts, and then we are completing our workflow over here using this node. So we can try testing our workflow from start to finish and see how it works. So to do that, here I'll unpin the data in this node over here and this one too over here. And now here on this node, you can see that in our JSON, we are manually inputting our keyword over here. So we can also automate this part. So to do that, in our spreadsheet, I've created another sheet that I've renamed to keywords over here. And here's where we're going to add our keywords. For example, we can add the same keyword that we used earlier, which is keto recipe over here. So in our workflow here, I'll delete this connection right here. And then here, I'm going to search for Google Sheets and click on Google Sheets. Then here I'm going to click on get rows in sheet node over here. Here, choose our document, choose this document right here. And for the sheet, I'm going to choose a keyword sheet. And then I'll take a step to grab our keyword, which is a keto recipe. Now you can connect it to this node over here. So here I'll rename this to keyword. I'll rename this to keywords, then click on rename over here. So now with our keyword over here, now I'll open this node over here. And then instead of having to manually input our keywords over here, click on expression right here, expand it so we can add our keyword. So we're going to grab the keyword from our spreadsheet. I'll clear and map the keyword over here with the data that we got from our spreadsheet. Then I'll click on back to canvas over here. Now we can execute our workflow, get our keyword, scrape influencers related to the keyword. Then we're going to add them to our spreadsheet. Then add the scripts to our spreadsheet and then generate outreach scripts using our AI agent. Then add the scripts to our spreadsheet and start sending them the outreach emails using Gmail. And then we're going to add labels to the outreach email. And then we're going to complete our workflow right here. So to execute the workflow, I'll click on execute workflow over here. Here, you can see that our workflow was executed successfully. Here, we grabbed one of the keywords that we added to our spreadsheet. The keyword was keto recipe. Over here, then using this node, we scraped influencers from Instagram using the keyword keto recipes, and we got 55 influencers. We got the email address, title, description, and the Instagram page link using this node over here. Then we limited the influencers to 10. Then we waited a few seconds and added the 10 influencers to our spreadsheet over here. Then we generated personalized cold outreach scripts using this influencer outreach AI agent. Then we added the scripts to our spreadsheet and waited a few seconds to send cold outreach messages to the influencers. Then we added the label to the message and we completed our workflow over here using this node over here. Now, when I open our spreadsheet, you can see we added 10 more influencers over here. Here we added the title, email, bio description over here, the Instagram URL, the subject lines that we generated using our workflow over here. We generated these personalized subject lines and these personalized emails using our workflow that we created here in Anytime. So here I'll rename this to send outreach emails. And here I'll click on rename. And here you can rename this to add label to email. And here I'll rename this to add label to email over here. Flow works perfectly. Here we're adding keywords to our spreadsheet over here. Then we are grabbing the keywords over here and using the keywords to scrape influencers from Instagram using this node over here. Then we're limiting the number of influencers that would like to send their cold outreach messages to. And we're waiting a few seconds and adding the influencers to our spreadsheet over here. We're adding the title, email, bio, and the Instagram URL. Then we're generating outreach scripts using this AI agent over here. Then we're adding the scripts to our spreadsheet over here. So we're adding the subject line and the personalized call outreach email over here, call email over here for each of our influencer. And then we're waiting a few seconds to start sending the outreach emails to the influencers using this node over here. Then we're adding a label to the call outreach messages, and then we're completing our workflow right here using this node over here. So our workflow works perfectly. So the only improvement I will make to this workflow is here we can add a loop and wait a few seconds before sending the emails, because right now we're sending the 10 emails automatically at the same time. So we can add a loop where we are waiting for, let's say, a few minutes to send one email and waiting a couple of minutes to send the second email. So that's the only thing that I will add to this workflow, but everything works perfectly. Now, if you'd like me to set up this workflow for you, click the first link in the description to schedule a call with me. On the call, we'll discuss the workflow that you'd like to set up for your business. Then I'll proceed to set up this workflow for you. But if you enjoyed the video and you have a workflow or an AI agent that you'd like for me to create using N8N, just comment down below in the comment section. I read all the comments, and if I land on your comment and I find it intriguing, I'll come back on a future video showing you how to create the entire workflow or AI agent from scratch using N8N. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.